Five, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. All engine running. Liftoff. We have a liftoff.
Welcome in. Welcome all. Happy Sunday night, folks. We are here, as always, Sunday nights. We're trying to get you guys prepared for the live streams as we take a good look here. Actually, I'm going to have to turn the blur off so you guys can see it. I'll unblur this here so you can take a second to look at it. Well, it's reversed. Doesn't matter. Adam Thielen, we are in the month of July. Countdown is real. But Sunday nights, man. Sunday nights post Panthers game live streams. That's what we do in addition to all the other content that we put out during the week, which is a ton. But I hope you guys are doing well out there today. What's good? Oh, we're already getting some nice takes in. What's up, Marcos Cash? Steve-O, Princely, and Scorton will surprise people. I hope so. Unfortunately, we're not going to be talking about them today, but we are going to be talking about a few other position groups, which we'll talk about in just a little bit. What's up, Steve-O, man? Yeah, appreciate it. D-line is much improved. Folks, if you are here, I will take off. Well, actually, I'm not going to take off the subscribe button, the blur button. If you are here and you are not a subscriber, if you're watching on X, if you are watching on Facebook, we are on Facebook, believe it or not. Make sure you go over to YouTube, hit the subscribe button, help us continue to grow. We're pushing for hitting that 3,000 subscriber mark by the time the season rolls around, which at the pace we're going, we've been about 200 subscribers per month. I have a feeling we're going to get there, although it's been a little bit slower over the last week or two, just getting that post July 4th rush, getting into this real lull of no real content outside of, doing the preview. So anyways, for folks that are here today, tuned in, which I appreciate as always, if you've not been following this series and or you don't follow me, every year before training camp, we do a 90-man roster preview. Every single player on the roster we talk about for a little bit. Now, some, of course, there's not going to be that much to say. A lot of undrafted free agent rookies, practice squad players. Yeah, not that much to say. But we cover everyone to cover your bases. And in particular, some position groups that we're going to talk about tonight: safety, cornerback. There's a lot of guys kind of in the weeds who's going to be who as we figured this thing out. I guess as the Carolina Panthers figured this thing out. But I'll take a step back to say the offensive videos are done. So you can go out to YouTube or wherever you get your podcast. They're available. We're actually finishing the rollout of the offense. I think it finishes on Tuesday. So offensive line tomorrow, wide receivers Tuesday. Everything else is out. So we have quarterbacks, running backs, tight ends, all out there. You guys can subscribe, watch. It's there. And of course, other videos will come later. Now, tonight is going to be different. So one, I wanted to live stream just to check in with you guys, but I also wanted to kill two birds with one stone. So we are going to preview. We're going to continue the preview on the defensive side of the ball. As I mentioned, looking at safeties, cornerbacks, and linebackers. We're going to try to do it in an hour. Hopefully less than an hour, if I'm being honest, but we'll just have to see how the pace goes with this. For those of you that do watch on YouTube and or listen to the podcast or vice versa, I'm just going to tell you that I'm going to repurpose these. So if you want to go back and watch this again, you can. Of course, the live stream will be available, but I'm not going to re-record. And I knew I needed to get through this. I'm just trying to get through the gauntlet of closing out the previews for myself. So I'll repurpose each one of these position groups, put it in its own video, just letting you know. I don't do that at all, but considering where we are and just chopping this stuff up and getting it out before training camp really ramps up, starts, get guys reporting and all that fun stuff, I wanted to save myself a little bit of time. So with that said, we're going to get started here in just a second. Steve-O said, if there is one position I don't trust, 100% it's cornerback and safety. I don't trust the depth. Yep. I agree with you. I wholeheartedly agree with you on that take. Actually, let's move this back here. There we go. Take it back a step. And you know what? Who cares about the blur? We'll keep it unblurred for right now. Now, we're going to get into this in just a second. Oh, last thing I was going to plug. So, in addition to everything that we're going through, of course, tonight we've got, like we said, safeties, cornerbacks, linebackers, inside linebackers, that is, not outside. We have the mailbag episode dropping tomorrow. Again, the train keeps rolling over here at the Carolina Tattoo Crowds One Roar, 2 shows, 1 host station. We keep this thing moving. So we have the mailbag episode dropping tomorrow, in addition to the offensive line preview. So you have that coming out. I also, this past weekend, recorded an additional episode. One of the things that, I've talked about, but it's been months, and we've hit on it high level here and there, is the changes to the coaching staff on the defensive side of the ball. So I decided to take a step back, and we reviewed every coach on this team heading into the 2025 season. So we got we looked at offense, we looked at Dave Canales, talked about your coordinators, again, for folks that just aren't as in tune, and we looked at the new additions on the defensive side of the ball. I don't think, for me, as we go into this preview, start talking about the defensive side of the ball, that you can talk about the defense for the Carolina Panthers without talking about the changes to the staff, without talking about the pressure that's there. We all know where Ejiro Evero sits. He's under a lot of pressure this year, and I do think or hope that some of these changes to the staff, particularly some of the position groups, can figure it out, because we need the help. We need any and all the help that we can get on the defensive side of the ball. We've brought in a lot of talent. Again, we're not going to be previewing outside linebackers today, but that is one of the groups that we're going to be talking about. And that was actually a mailbag question. So you'll get an early insight into what I think about our edge group and how confident I am that I think they're going to be able to generate pressure. That was one of the questions somebody put in, which was nice. So anyways, we're going to get rolling here so that I don't have to stay up here too late. Got that right. Rock Jones said, I trust Morgan since he's been able to keep Zephyr quiet. That's right. We said a lot of Morgan, a lot of Brant Tillis, of course, Dave Canales in the mix too, but all for it. All right, folks. The way we do this, if you've not been following along, we're not going to do fancy graphics for the purposes of me just trying to keep content at, in check, because there's a lot of stuff that we have to do. So what we do is we just go to Panthers.com. We keep this thing as clean as you can get. Like, I don't know how to get cleaner than Panthers.com website. So that's what we use for this. We will pull up each individual player. I do have this. So just if you guys drop comments along the way, know that I will come back to them as once I get through. So if it may take a few minutes or longer for me to get back into the chat, because I've got this put up on a different screen. With that said, folks, we are here today to start out previewing the safety position for the Carolina Panthers. And now earlier today, if you followed on X, I think I may have posted it on YouTube. I can never remember if I post things in multiple platforms. It doesn't matter. The safety position, I started to kind of tease out where the safety position is, where we're going. And it is one of those position groups for me personally where, yeah, there's a lot of things to question. So this is your entire group right now. Isaac Gifford, a rookie, undrafted free agent out of Nebraska. Thank you, Matt Rule. We greatly appreciate it. Sarcasm around. Jack Henderson, undrafted free agent, rookie, safety out of Minnesota. Trevon Moehrig, of course, the bright spot, the prize jewel, what we were after. And then there's just a bunch of other guys on this roster. So Lathan Ransom, draft pick from this year out of Ohio State. Demani Richardson, second-year player, undrafted free agent. Nick Scott, who has the most experience on the team, but was very, I was going to say hit or miss, but much more miss than hit last season. I know the Panthers like him for what he can do on special teams. We will have the special teams preview as kind of the final episode in this series. But the Panthers showed us what they thought of him as a safety on like what happened during the season. His snaps went away. He wasn't seeing the field. So he's back. But I do wonder because like I just question the Panthers and they didn't panic. Like it wasn't a panic move per se, but Panthers did have to, I think they did have to sit back at some point and say, oh, wow, we just lost, I don't know, 40, 50% of our safety room, probably technically more than that. And you lost a guy that played every snap in Xavier Woods. You lost Jordan Fuller. And like you didn't lose that much. Lonnie Johnson, Sam Franklin, who wasn't really playing anywhere much. And I know he had the injury to start, but you lost a lot of guys along the way. And so the Panthers are sitting here like, well, we have to have depth. We have to, like, and they bring back Nick Scott. So he is your veteran in the room as of now, but I do put him down. And I mean, hey, we can be shocked, but I put him down the totem pole of where he sits as far as contributing on the field at the safety position, more of a special teamer. And then Tre'von, Thomas, undrafted free agent rookie out of Arkansas State. So the Panthers have four, as it is today, four rookie safeties on the roster. Of course, one of those that they drafted, the three others undrafted free agents. The Panthers needed to do something at the safety position. Everyone's been begging for it. We know they've been sniffing around in the market, but they haven't gotten anybody yet. As we get closer and closer and closer, the other reason I wanted to put this out is like, I know training camp's going to be here. Sometimes things happen once training camp opens. So things can shift. Or once we actually get into the thick of it, like then we start to see transactions come through. With that said, and we will get into actually clicking into some of the guys in just a second, but there's honestly not too much to talk through with a lot of the undrafted free agents, which we'll go through. You really have one safety, and then you got a bunch of question marks. And I think out of your group of question marks, I do like Demani Richardson. I think like if we're having to pick who's going to be that guy right now, I'd pick him. But I'm not fully sold. And I just look at the depth. Depth is an issue. So if someone unfortunately gets hurt, who are you going to rely on? The Panthers don't have a lot to go around. So curious to see if they end up finding someone along the way. Without further ado, though, let's get right into this. There's not a lot to talk about as we click through these for some of your undrafted free agents, like we said, but I did take down a few notes for you guys. So Isaac Gifford, first one on the list, as we mentioned, undrafted free agent, 6 feet, 203 pounds. He actually played 5 years at Nebraska and, of course, did play with Matthew Stafford. I looked today on Nebraska's one at their website, but also their social media. There wasn't a ton of highlights or comments. I think there was like one video of him like hyping up the players pregame. So to be honest, I do not have many to any expectations for the group of undrafted free agents that are here. Now, with that said, we saw Demani Richardson. So I'm excited to see, since we won't have training camp to really figure out what's happening with who, what these guys look like in the preseason. So that's going to be an opportunity. I mean, we are going to need depth. You're going to have to build out a practice squad. So there is potential for one of these guys that's an undrafted free agent to potentially make that roster. And like we said, like Demani Richardson, when he came onto the scene, he was balling out in the preseason last year. And so there, the football side of him was there. Panthers played around with a little bit. And of course, we got to see him later on. And so I don't write these guys off, but I just give you an open, honest, like I don't know what to expect out of this. Going with the Charlotte Hornets model, picking 2 white safeties. It's just giving the Charlotte Hornets fans a hard time. 2 white boys, Isaac Gifford and Jack Henderson. So we'll see how it pans out. Going back now, we will talk through Jack Henderson for just a small second. There's really not too much to talk about here, and I want to make sure, of course, that I get through this. 6'2", 215 pounds, so a little bit bigger. Let's go back to the notes that we had, at least that I had on him. Yeah, there wasn't that much when I was going back through. And the other thing is, like, I try to go back and look at some of the potential draft notes and things like that. I do take that back. For Jack Henderson, I don't remember which account tweeted it out, but there was someone that said, and take it for what it's worth, like a grain of salt, he was one of the players that tested out really well. And I don't have the tweet in front of me. I should do better. I may actually be able to go out and find it if I'm not too lazy here. I'm not lazy, but it should be a recent tweet. I actually try to find it so we can tell you exactly what was said. So maybe if we're trying to chart this thing up, like maybe there is something there potentially for this guy. Let's see if I can get into my recent retweets. Tweet too much random stuff here lately. So here we go. All right. I'll share this tab. I retweeted this earlier. Bomb Arito Performance Systems. I don't know. I don't know what to tell you. A leader in sports for performance training. Okay. Pro Day update. Minnesota defensive back Jack Henderson had arguably the best overall workout of any safety in this entire draft. You can see the highlights up here running as we go through this. 40-yard dash, 4.47, impressive. 40-inch vertical, 10'8" on the broad. Shuttle, 415, cone, 6.7, bench, 12 reps. I'm not a scout, not an NFL scout, so I can't tell you like how this measures up, but I will tell you 40 speed in the vertical at that. It's pretty impressive. So you know what? Maybe as we go through this and I talk myself into it, maybe he is someone that we need to be watching for. So I am excited. I'll go ahead and put a little asterisk beside his name. Like for me personally, this is something I did last year with Andrew Rame, who was the center out of Oklahoma. I had a kind of a tick mark beside him. Curious to see how he was going to play out. So add him to your list. We will now move on to one of the biggest acquisitions for the Carolina Panthers in this past offseason. Let's share the tab so you guys can see it. Trevin Moehrig, 5 years of experience, 6'2", 202, 26 years old, played at TCU. Had 57 solos, 1 sack, 2 interceptions last year. I'll give it a second for his stat line to pull up. So that was the solo numbers, but total tackles, 97. It was his most productive year. 57 solo, like we said, 40. Did have the 1 sack, 2 INTs, 10 pass deflections. Going back to 23, 72 total tackles, 2 sacks, 8 pass deflections, 3 interceptions. Not as much production, but it only looks like he played in 15 games in 2022. With 15, sorry, I was looking at my notes on the side. And then in 2021. So he is by far one of the biggest pickups for the Panthers. And when we talk about the Carolina Panthers and the woes of last year, there's a lot of talk about the run game, giving up a lot of points, stopping the run. I like what Moehrig can do for that, but also to the other side, like you can't ignore the secondary, and we are going to get to cornerbacks. So we'll talk about cornerbacks in just a second. But from a secondary perspective, I'm excited for Tre'von Moehrig. It feels like a situation, if you think back to last year, and we've spent a lot of time talking about the offense. It was the offensive line last year, defensive line this year. But some people questioned the Panthers spending the amount of money that they did on Robert Hunt and Damian Lewis. They invested heavily on the defensive front this year, but also spending the money on Tre'von. I think it's going to be money well spent. In the long term, the biggest thing is figuring out who's going to be back there beside him heading into this season. So he is a fantastic football player all around. I think he's going to be a great fit for the Carolina Panthers. All right, so now we move on to Lathan Ransom. And now I know a lot of folks are excited about this pick. I am excited about this pick, but I'm also not ready to declare that he's the next thing. Like he's just ready to play. Because you think about Tre'von, more of a strong safety. Lathan, who's going to be the free safety player in this mix? So Lathan Ransom can do a little bit of both. It's what people have talked about. 6 foot, 206, played at Ohio State. If we are to take anything out of what we've heard from Dan Morgan in the front office and everyone this offseason, or at least part of it, a lot of what they talked about was trying to find players that have won, that were at winning programs. And so, of course, you have Ohio State in the mix, winning program, national championship. Couldn't have asked for anything better. I don't know if he's the guy. This is why we have competition. So I guess the other thing we should discuss is like there's going to be a competition for who is starting opposite of Moehrig. Don't know just yet. And to be honest, the person that starts opposite of him may not even be on the Carolina Panthers roster at the moment. They may be sitting at home on the couch. I mean, maybe, yeah, technically, because it's 10 o'clock at night on the East Coast. They may be sitting at home on the couch. They may be on another team at the moment. And I'm not saying trade, but cut, waivers. And again, I know like when you get down into cuts and when we get to that point, like there's not going to be that many good players available. I mean, I remember last year we were all hyping up the fact that the Panthers were number one in waiver wire. They're going to get so much talent. It's just going to fall off right to them. Oh, number one. Like that was the talk of everyone, including myself, for like this period of the preseason when roster cuts were going to happen. The Panthers are going to have a flood of talent because everybody's going to cut all their guys and the Panthers are going to find theirs. I laughed because like, no, it just didn't work out that way. So Lathan Ransom to me, I do think if you were like roster as it is today, I think it's between Lathan Ransom and Demani Richardson. Again, I still, because of the experience and being in the system, I do put Demani Richardson ahead at the moment, but we'll get into this. We'll get to see what the battle looks like once camp rolls around. Speaking of, we've got 3 more safeties to preview here. Let's go ahead and talk about Demani Richardson. Demani Richardson, 6'1", 215 pounds, only 24 years old, played at Texas A&M. Last year, he had 26 solo tackles, 1 interception. We can pull up the game log here. And I thought, actually, I'll pull up the game log in a second. I'm pulling up his full stat line. He appeared in 14 games last season. This is why I think he's got the upper hand where it sits today, like just the experience by itself. 49 tackles, 26 solo, 23 assists, two pass breakups, 1 interception. Looking at his game logs, this is what I was trying to get into just a second ago. You can go back here. And I mean, he didn't like ball out per se in the preseason, but he did make some plays. So against the Patriots, he had 4 tackles. Against the Jets, he had 3. He did have 1 pass deflection, 1 interception. He returned that for 29 yards. So kind of a knack for getting to the ball. And like, if we're being real, the thing that the Panthers need, and like Canales has talked about this as well, forcing turnovers, protecting the ball on our side. It is very basic day one fundamentals when it comes to football and playing football and coaching. You turn the ball over and you keep the ball on your side, things are usually going to pan out in your favor. So the Panthers having someone potentially in the fold at the safety position that can force turnovers will be good. Now, we're actually getting close to wrapping up our entire conversation on the safety position for those that are just now tuning in. I think we've got 2 more players yet. What I was going to say is, and we're still not fully sold on this group. I don't think anyone is, because it's like the Panthers really have one good player out of a group where you need at least 2 or 3. It'd be ideal. But you think about the safety position, you think about the secondary, because we're going to talk about cornerbacks in a little bit. But you think about this, the secondary and both of these groups can get better or be better than they actually are if you get to the quarterback. If you are causing pressure, if you are getting in true passing down situations, peel your ears back, go to the quarterback, 3rd and long, 3rd and 9, 3rd and 11, 3rd and 12, situations where, hey, yeah, we know a pass is coming. It just is a little bit better. So if the Panthers can fix those things in the long run, maybe you can make up from your shortcomings on this side, but I'm still not sold in this entire group right now. Just not. Now, 2 more to go. We'll preview Nick Scott now, who is the most tenured. Oh, shoot. Well, we canceled it. So we're going to try do that to share the right screen again. We're going to preview the most tenured safety on the roster. Try to go back to the Panthers again. All right. Here we go. Technical delays on this side. We'll figure it out one day. All right, here we go. Nick Scott, number 21, 5'11", 200 pounds, 30. So that's another reason that I'm not fully sold on him, is the fact that the Panthers were in this bind. Felt like, okay, we got to have somebody. We can't go in with a bunch of rookies and just try to figure this out and then plug in whoever we can, like a second-year player. So from a special teams perspective, sure, great. Everything else, not so much. And we'll pull up his career stat line and we'll look at the game logs in just a second. Last year, he appeared in 10 games, 27 total tackles, 2 pass deflections. Before that, in 23, he was with the Bengals. You can see the stat line here for those that are watching, with 46 total tackles, no interceptions or pass deflections. For that, of course, where you have the ties with Evero, Los Angeles Rams. He wasn't a bad. I mean, you go back and look at the production in 21 and 22, it wasn't bad. Like, I would take 2 interceptions each year, 80 tackles, 43. Like, that 22 season was definitely his best season by far. But when we look over here at the game log, if we can find it, I got to keep scrolling down. We kind of see the story of the season. Well, potentially, I don't have a snap counts. I could have logged into something else. Doesn't matter. He started to play and then he tailed off towards the end of the season. So early in the season, not really in week 1 and week 2, but started seeing him get into the fold. Week 3, of course, this is where injuries were starting to pop up for the Panthers. Week 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. After week 7, pretty much took him off the books. And so this is why, for me, when I think about, some people may say, oh, great, we brought back a guy who was here. Panthers showed us what they thought of him like last season when they pulled the plug. Once we got through week 7, it was like, okay, sorry, see you. You're not getting on the field. And you decide to bring him back, which is fine. I still think it was a panic move and more of an insurance policy to say, okay, yeah, you know what? We at least have someone who knows the system, who's been here. Maybe next year he'll be able to figure it out. So I'm not fully sold. So, like, if you talk about the Panthers' safety position, the room as it is right now, you really have one excellent football player, and then you're kind of guessing between Ransom and Richardson, and then there's nobody. As it is today, things can change, but the safety position continues to concern me, which is why I think the Panthers continue to sniff around trying to find something. They've got the money to work with right now. Will they get something in over the line? I don't know, but we'll continue to monitor it. So, yeah, Nick Scott is back. We'll see. And for those that are, I mean, I don't know if you're a Xavier Woods fan, losing him hurts. He played every single snap, played the most snaps on the defensive side of the ball out of anyone in the entire NFL last season, which should be appreciated. He might not have been the best, but it would have been nice to have him in the fold paired with Moehrig. Like, I just think that duo, not bad to have. But everything else, though, I mean, to be honest, I don't think the Panthers really had a choice. Talking about Jordan Fuller, you're not really losing that much. Sam Franklin, that people love, he is, to be honest, Sam Franklin and Nick Scott are almost the same when it comes to safety. Sam Franklin played way less on the actual defensive side of the ball. Special teams ace, but I said it way back when, Panthers don't need special teams aces. They need players that can play football on the defensive side, that can be in the game. Who gives a rat's butt about a special teams ace, third, fourth, fifth stringer when you can't get guys on the field that can actually be competent and know what the heck they're doing out there? So we'll see. I'm going to be hard on this group. I hope I'm proven wrong and that they do figure it out. Last on the list, and we won't spend a lot of time because I got to start ramping up the pace to make sure we get through cornerbacks and linebackers. Tre'von Thomas, he is the last on the list. Arkansas State. I did see a really cool, and I did post this. Let's actually pull up his picture really quick. I did pull up his social Arkansas State. I just kind of did a search for him. There was a cool story posted by one of the local news stations there. I reposted that earlier today. But 5'11", 196, rookie, undrafted free agent out of Arkansas State. Again, I don't have a ton of expectations for him or the guys that are our undrafted free agent group, but we'll see. With that said, let me get back in here. And that concludes it, folks. So your safety room as it is today: Isaac Gifford, Jack Henderson, Trayvon Moehrig, Lathan Ransom, Demani Richardson, Nick Scott, Tre'von Thomas. Real question is, who is starting opposite of Moehrig? Do we know yet? Ransom, Richardson? We will find out. We're going to get ready to talk about cornerbacks. Before we talk about cornerbacks, let me get tuned in here to the chat because I did say I would get caught up with you guys. Actually, we can do this. I'll get caught up with the chat. All right, folks. Oh, man, y'all are having fun over there. Steve O said, I would love to hear your opinion on why Cam Newton is being treated like Kaepernick and banned from the franchise. I will tell you, they seem to be making amends, and I don't know how many of y'all are following along with Panthers social, but the Panthers social media team did post with the release of the Superman movie, of course, Super Cam. They did post a video, the social media team did, of like honoring him. And so I think that thing is coming together. Like, I think they're going to be working that out. Yeah. So this is a great point as we now kind of come back. And again, I told you guys I wouldn't be able to catch you I was doing this live. But yeah, Nick Scott doesn't make the 53. I could agree with that. Like, there's a strong case that we don't see him make the 53. I fully believe it. Did you see where the Saints are getting a white alternate? Yes. I got to tell you, they're nice. I do like it. Like, I know some people, there's some folks in the fan base that just bash every other team like they're complete, garbage. But I will tell you, man, it's those are nice. I'm excited for those. Rather have a blue helmet, blue jersey, and pants. Yep. Like that. Leave your mark. Roscoe Dash. Roscoe Dash, like, wait a second here. I know it's not the Roscoe Dash, but Roscoe Dash was an American rapper. Roscoe Dash. That's right. No hands. I had to look it up with Waka Flocka. Look, ma, no hands. If the Roscoe Dash is tuned in to Carolina Panthers football talk, I appreciate it. That would be something. Who's the coverage shape? It's a great question, man. Yeah, sorry guys, I was going through all that. It's tough, man. I don't know that like when you think about Demani Richardson, possibly him, but I know Lathan Ransom is more of a strong, like in the box safety as well. So I don't know that the Panthers have it. I just don't know that they have that talent here. And I don't know if they're banking on the fact that they're just going to figure it out with what they have. We'll see. Take a processed blue helmet all day. Rock said, I believe in Demani, but he has to excel in coverage. He's because we already have it in the box. Yep, exactly. Yep, we were just exactly what we just said. I agree with that all day. Nick Scott is horrible. Yeah, he's not great. Not great at all. Can we finally get a special team returner? Right? Agree. Yeah, Doug said when Cam retires, he will get his flowers from the Panthers organization. Cool. All right, y'all, we're going to keep it rocking and rolling. So I make sure I hopefully can get through this. Well, we go from the safety position, we stay in the secondary, and now we're going to preview the cornerback room. And to be honest, I don't know that the cornerback room is in better position, but I don't know if it's in much better position than the safety room. But we'll talk about it. A lot to discuss here. So if you're just now tuning in, folks, or you haven't been tuned in and you don't know what the heck's going on, we're previewing the 90-man roster for the Carolina Panthers. All the offensive videos are either released or coming out in the next 2 days. I decided, because we live stream every Sunday night for the most part, live stream every Sunday night during the season, but I'm trying to get people back in the habit of tuning in. Decided to record 3 videos tonight for cornerback, safety, linebackers for the 90-man preview. So we're going ahead and doing that. We're going to get through cornerbacks, try to do that speed so that I can close out this episode, and linebackers. So similar, I can't see you guys because I'm pulling up on another screen, but we can definitely feel free to use the chat, and then I'll come back to the chat as we get through it. So cornerback position for the Carolina Panthers, I was actually looking at this before as well, getting prepared. And I think one of the things that I don't know that it was super surprising, but a little bit surprising to me was the fact that Jaycee Horn and Mike Jackson are your 2 veterans out of this group. We'll scroll through. Actually, I'll scroll through the list in a second, or I'll read it. But both of those guys, 5 years of experience. It's wild to think. And I mean, I know JC just got his extension and all that, and Mike Jackson got re-signed as well. But like that is the veteran leadership that we have in this room, and it's good. We'll get into Jaycee Horn as we get there, but looking at the list, we'll do the same thing we just did for safety. So Shamar Bartholomew, out of Georgia Southern, Travis Broughton, rookie undrafted free agent out of TCU, MJ Devonshire, played at Pitt, Akayleb Evans out of Missouri, Jaycee Horn, the University of South Carolina Gamecocks, Mike Jackson out of Miami, Michael Reed out of South Dakota, and then Chau Smith-Wade, Washington State, and Corey Thornton, rookie undrafted free agent. So 1, 2, 3 rookie, 3 undrafted free agent rookies in the mix. When you think about the cornerback room for the Carolina Panthers, I know some folks wondered if the Carolina Panthers were going to draft a cornerback. I know a lot of folks were asking for it, did not pan out. And so now the Panthers are stuck with what they have. With that said, I do feel a little bit better, like we said, in comparing it to the safety room. I think there's enough. It may not be A++. It may not be the best, cornerback room or group of guys in the NFL, but I do think, like similar to when we talk about Moehrig, I think Jaycee Horn's in that mix. I do think Mike Jackson, although some folks may not be as sold on him, I do think he's viable. And also Chau Smith-Wade. I think the biggest question mark at the nickelback position. I think the biggest question mark we are going to have is just kind of figure out who the rotation of guys is going to be. It's inevitable. Again, we always say, knock on wood, we don't want to see any of these guys get hurt, but there's always a possibility. And so I think just understanding like who out of this group is going to kind of take the next step up. One thing that's been highlighted by some is some of the size that Ejiro Evero likes to deploy. He likes bigger cornerbacks. You look at the guys that we have here, 6'1", 5'11", 5'11", 6'2", 6'1", 6'1", 6'2", 5'11". Like he generally picks, big cornerbacks. And so, I mean, that's like, you got to be, I guess 5'11" is his checklist. If you're below 5'11", at least the way the roster is constructed right now, you might not be here. Anyways, let's go ahead and get this show rolling. We'll do the same thing as we have done for safeties and every other position on the team. So we'll start with Shamar Bartholomew, who I think has a possibility to make the 53. I do. I'm not saying you're going to see a lot out of him if he does make it there, but he was an undrafted free agent. I think he's a strong candidate if he does not make the 53, because I do think he could push for a roster spot if he has a really good camp and maybe that special teams play. Like you're going to have him contribute at some point through there. I think he has the potential. And so I think for me, it's unfortunate that we can't see, training camp this year to really see the competition as this thing plays out, but we'll have to kind of just see how it goes. Last year, he had 2 solo tackles. That's all his stats. I didn't mean to pull up the actual career stats, but we did. 2 solo, 3 total, 1 assist, 2 pass deflections. He appeared in 5 games. So I think that's another reason to potentially buy into the fact that, hey, maybe he's got a chance. So it was the Commanders game. What? I was looking at the preseason. I was like, what the heck? That's way off. So a lot of special teams play. I guess it was the final game against the Falcons was really where he looked at the Panthers being hurt as much as they were. And it feels like ages ago, but it looks like he did got a pretty decent playing time and played on the defensive side of the ball. So got the win over the Falcons. I would put him in the mix. And I think the other thing, which I did not, and I should have done this when I went through safeties, as we go through all this, it's trying to break down the final 53. That's eventually what we'll get to. For the offensive side of the ball, I have the Panthers with around 23 to 24 players. So defense, 26 to 27-ish is the number that we're monitoring. For the safety position, I have 4 to 5 safeties. And so I think I'm close to that mix, with cornerbacks likely keeping 5. Could be 4, but I think 5 is probably the number there. We'll go back. All right, so Travis Broughton, we'll get him pulled up here in just a second. Sorry for the delay in pulling this through. Like I said, I'm not going to spend a lot of time on the undrafted free agents. 5'11", 195 pounds. Let me go see if I had any notes. No. I was seeing if there was anything like super significant that I had. Scrolling through one more time. Nope. Nothing nothing out of this group. So or for Travis, excuse me. But you know what? Just like we said, we get into the preseason and the games, see what happens. Maybe there's something there that pulls us out. MJ Devonshire, 5'11, 186. We'll get him pulled up here as well. Take a second to get this load. 5'11, 186, 1 year of experience, played at Pitt. He did appear in the preseason. This was not here, but played a little bit. So, I mean, for us, primarily, but this is not what I wanted to do. I keep clicking the wrong thing. When you look at MJ Devonshire, Panthers picked him up very early in the offseason. I was trying to think back to when everything blurs together. You know what? We can actually do this. I'm going to do a quick look because it's been a while, and I'll share the tab in a second. I feel like they picked him up at the end of this season, but I honestly can't remember because it's been so long. So I'm going to try to pull this up and see. Yeah, claimed off of waivers back in April. So that's where they picked him up. So claimed off of waivers, kind of went under the radar. I mean, not that much to talk about with MJ Devonshire, but potential as we talk about depth pieces for the Carolina Panthers. I do have him on my list. All right. We'll try to get back into being able to actually share this the right way with you guys. One day we'll get there. All right. Akayleb Evans actually has, when you look at the experience, I want to make sure I didn't actually, okay, good. I make sure I didn't pass over anybody as we go through this. So Akayleb Evans has the second most experience outside of Jaycee Horn and Mike Jackson. I'll pull up his info here. 4 years of experience, 6'2", 198 pounds, 26 years old, out of Missouri. Last year, he had 4 solo tackles. We'll get all of his career stat line pulled up here. So previously spent time, his first 3 seasons with the Minnesota Vikings, and actually in the 2023 campaign wasn't terrible. He appeared in 15 games. So getting some playing time, had 56 total tackles, 40 solos, 16 assists, 7 pass deflections, and 1 interception. As a rookie in 2022, appeared in 10 games, 21 total tackles, 2 pass deflections. In 2024, I don't have everything pulled up in front of me, but clearly a drop off, only appearing in 7 games and having the 1 tackle. And then last year he appeared in 2, which will pull up his game log. Something tells me it's probably similar to late in the season opportunity. Yep. Against the Atlanta Falcons and the Tampa Bay Bucks, also in between. But as you do look at the state of the Panthers cornerback room, I do think you can make a strong case right now that MJ Devonshire is in the mix. I think Akayleb Evans is in the mix. And this is, guys, we were talking like fourth and fifth spots. Shamar Bartholomew as well, just because of his ties to Big here. So I look at those 3, and I should be sharing this tab for you guys so you can see it as well. But I do think those 3 are in the mix. Now we get down, and now we're getting into really the meat of the roster with all the guys that we know. The 3 out of the 4. Actually, before we do the 3 out of the 4, we'll lastly look. Last undrafted free agent rookie is Michael Reed, 6'2", 200 pounds, out of South Dakota. And let me just check my notes. I'm not actually going to pull him up for the purposes of going through this. Yeah. There's not a lot, at least in the notes that I was pulling up for him as I was getting prepared for this. So before we get into like of course, the guys that we really know, talk about our expectations, I do look at this and again, just to level set, probably 4 to 5 cornerbacks on the roster. Bartholomew in the mix, Devonshire, and I do think Akayleb Evans. So I do think out of that 3, 2 possibly make it. Assuming, of course, we got Horn, Jackson, and Chau Smith-Wade is the other 3. So that would be my 5 as we get into the final 53. I don't know that the Panthers are as active, at least right now, in considering like a cornerback. I think if they're looking for a cornerback, to potentially replace Mike Jackson next year would be an option through the draft. Like, let's get some young talent in here, see how it goes. All right. Like I said, we're going to bypass Michael Reed. I hope you do well, Michael Reed. Show us, prove us wrong, but we'll get into our starting lineup, which is, of course, Jaycee Horn, Mike Jackson, and Chau Smith-Wade. I'm actually going to close a bunch of these other tabs because I got way too many tabs open from where I keep opening these things up. So Jaycee Horn, 6'1", 200 pounds, of course, out of University of South Carolina, 25 years old. I was about to say 35. That was like, no. By far his best season for the Carolina Panthers last year. Appeared in 15 games, had 62 tackles, 43 solo, 19 assists, 2 sacks. That was pretty big. His first sack of his career, had 1 interception, 13 pass deflections. He missed, time at the end of the season, but the Panthers, of course, not really in contention for anything. And they, in my opinion, just shut him down. Like, no reason to aggravate or cause something to be more severe than it needs to be. So just let him sit. So as far as concerns about him missing 2 games, I'm not worried about it. I look at Jaycee Horn as a foundational piece for the secondary, for the cornerback room, and the defense itself. Like, you think about the defense for the Carolina Panthers, who are those vocal leaders? Who are the leaders in general? I don't know that I really feel that Rose Boom or Josey Jewell or Trevin Wallace, you typically would look for your middle linebackers to kind of lead the charge. I don't know that it's there. I think this is Derek Brown and Jaycee Horn's defense, and those are the focal points. You look back at the way Jaycee Horn played last year, one, the health and being able to play we'll call it a full season, big. And it was not only the fact that he played, he performed at a high level. I think in some situations he got put in bad spots with some of the miscommunication and, of course, the run defense just being as bad as it was. Like, I think all those things piled together didn't make him look good in some cases, but overall, I'm glad the Panthers invested, made a decision to keep him around. And honestly, in the next year or two, the money that they paid him is going to look like a drop in the bucket. Like, it's just not going to be as big. But the thing that set it off for me as far as where I see Jaycee Horn and how I respect him and what he is for the Carolina Panthers. And I honestly, at this point, can't even remember which game it was, but there was a game, it might have been the Bears, I don't know, where someone scored on them and then Jaycee Horn got pissed and kind of retaliated and run his mouth and was pushing and shove. I'm all for it, man. Just tired of this defense and this organization is just being run into the ground and being a laughing stock. So, yeah, that's where I sit with Jaycee Horn. Big year now for those that are on the other side of the fence, because no matter how much I am a fan of him, I know there's still a portion of the fan base that maybe isn't sold on Jaycee Horn and this secondary and being able to stay healthy. And why did you pay him all this money? I do think there is still a little bit of hey, we need to see this. Even for those that are supporting him, we want to see it for another year. Let's just start building this up. The last thing we want is a situation where we continue to pile up injuries and miss time, CMC-esque type situation, and things just don't pan out. And when he is performing well, when he is out there, and we saw last year, he is one of the best cornerbacks in the league. And having that as a weapon on your defense, especially with hopefully the improvements that we see, like we talked about on the defensive front and getting to the quarterback, could be big. I think the question that I have is Ejiro Evero going to kind of loosen up a little bit, letting him either travel with number ones as a possibility? I don't know. I don't know if he's going to, change his philosophy to buy into the strengths that are on the roster, but hopefully he'll at least lean into it. Now, playing opposite of Jaycee Horn is going to be Mike Jackson. Really good story. I mean, you think about him, the trade to get him over here, what we gave up, which basically turns into nothing now. Seeing the level of play that we got out of him and then being able to sign him back here for 2 more years. Now, I know some folks, like we said, maybe you wanted an upgrade. Maybe you wanted them to draft. Maybe you wanted to look at free agency. But I think the Carolina Panthers, it made sense to bring him back to add that stability because it's like, hey, you got a lot of holes on the defensive side of the ball. We're not telling you that, hey, yeah, you should maybe next year go out and look at a true number 2 cornerback to pair with Jaycee Horn. But at least for now, it's like one of those issues that you can just push down the road a little bit and things are going to be okay. You can patch the boat and you're going to be fine. A little duct tape is going to help. Like it'll be okay. You'll get through it. Eventually, you're going to have to replace it, but at least for now, duct tape covers it up and you're going to be fine. So 6'1", again, got the 2-year contract. So you bring back both pieces in the secondary, 6'1", 210. He is 28 years old. So it's another reason, of course, he'll be 30 when he gets through with his contract. So it's another reason why the Carolina Panthers should be looking to get a little bit younger heading into next year. So last year, 51 solo tackles, 2 interceptions. Pulling up his full stat look here. 51 solo, 18 assists, 17 pass deflections, 2 interceptions. I mean, hands down, best season of his entire career. Yeah, I haven't put it over his 2022 season with Seattle. But before that, he did have actually played 3 seasons with Seattle, 1 with New England, 1 with Detroit. I mean, you can see it took him a little bit to get his feet underneath him, but once he did, things kind of took off. Found some playing time. His 4th year in the NFL with Seattle, of course, back in 23, played with them in a diminished role. You can see the drop in production there, so not as much. And then really just finding his spot here. When we talk about size, that's a big reason why he fits into the scheme so well. And I do think, like we've said, I think the secondary itself is going to find itself improving just by having a pass rush. And I do think he's a decent cornerback. Like I'm not one of the ones that are ready to just write him off and say that he's absolutely trash. And I also think it's the dumbest thing in the world when I see people posting or commenting on clips from OTAs or 7-on-7 and just no comment. People that are upset about a play. This player's getting burned on this play with this situation. Like stuff like that drives me crazy. So for me, I do feel good about the 1-2 between Jaycee Horn and Mike Jackson. Lastly, we did skip over Corey Thornton. Sorry, man. Corey Thornton. This is what I get for having the list a little too long. But Corey Thornton is also an undrafted free agent rookie out of Louisville. Another one, of course, 6'1". Got to have those measurables. We'll talk about Chau Smith-Wade is the last cornerback. And for those that are tuned in right now to the live version, I will jump back in the chat real fast before we move on to linebackers. I'm way over time, man. Time management's not good for me tonight. So Chau Smith-Wade, he's only 22 years old. He's young. I did not realize how young he is, but 5'11", 176 out of Washington State. I don't know why he also looks a little bit like shorter or smaller on film compared to the other guys, but still decent size. Last year, appeared in 14 games, 36 total tackles, 22 solo, 14 assists, 1 pass deflection, and 1 interception. Really, as it sits right now, he's your nickel when you're looking at the starting lineup for the Carolina Panthers. And you kind of look at him similar, didn't see a lot of playing time the first 4 weeks, even getting into the Bears and Falcons, not so much, but then saw his role kind of come around a little bit. Week 7 Commanders, then the Broncos, Saints. Nothing against the Giants and Chiefs, but then the Bucks, Eagles, and Cardinals. So I do think he's another one. The other thing too, like if you end up hitting on Chau Smith-Wade and you hit on Demani Richardson, if you're Dan Morgan in the front office, of course, bringing in the free agents that you did as well. Really good foundation for the future. Just talking about how young these guys are being able to play in. So for me, I am looking forward to Chau Smith-Wade as the nickel. I mean, I did a little bit when we were going through like the draft process, wonder if the Panthers were again going to sniff around in that realm of the world and potentially look at a nickel cornerback, but they didn't. So that is going to wrap it up for all of your cornerbacks. I guess before I officially say this is it, because I didn't do this for safeties, if we had to do a way too early projection, I think it's pretty obvious. Chau Smith-Wade, Mike Jackson, Jaycee Horn. I don't know that I could give you my final 2 out of the remaining, but I do think Akayleb Evans, Bartholomew, and Devonshire are the 3, at least right now, that I would put in contention for getting what we would presume are at least the final spot or the final 2 spots, depending on how many the Carolina Panthers keep. All right, man. Let's get back over here for just a second, and then we're going to go to linebackers, and then we're going to go. I'm going to try to speed through linebackers in 20 minutes or less. I keep saying that, but I really, really need to. All right, let's see what we got. Yeah, a lot of people talking about being able to sign Blackman. I think the Panthers are going to continue to look around for a safety. I do. Get to the scary part of the depth chart because we're 1 Horn injury away from trouble. Speaking of cornerbacks, I agree. We are. That's the biggest thing. Like I didn't really talk about that portion of it when we're going through this. Like, should Horn go down? Yeah, it's not good. And I mean, it's pretty similar to the safety position, but yeah, 100%. If there is an injury that happens there, not great. Oh man, Jeff, folks, appreciate you, Jeff Hawkins. So Jeff Hawkins covers the Carolina Panthers for the Charlotte Post. Shout out to Jeff. Here you go, guys. Inside look at what we've been able to see in the offseason program. So Shamar Bartholomew, from Jeff himself, has said has looked strong during the offseason, but another vet is needed. So potential. We'll see how things play out. Also appreciate you tuning in, Jeff. As always, man, feel free to drop any other knowledge for us, folks, as you go through here. Might have something in Smith-Wade. I agree, man. Yes, training camp closed to the public for the next 2 years. I am one of those that's like, I feel like they gave us worst case scenario. And I mean, it is technically 2 years, but you do wonder if there's potential for them to get this thing done early, and then maybe they surprise us all and say, oh yeah, you guys can come back next year. But yeah, at least for now, there is FanFest August 2nd. So I think we're going to try to make it. Depends on what our football program stuff looks like here for Nolan's high school and all that, but we'll see. We need one of the guys to be a hidden gem, right? We need to go mining for some hidden gems. A dog who rises to the competition and excels when the lights are on, like Josh Norman. I like it. Always, man. Always. Roscoe said he gets that all the time. It's a great name to have, man. Good problem. South Carolina. South Dakota guy. You got your sleeper. Nice. Dig it, man. I dig it. All right, folks. I'm going to try to get this thing closed out by a little after 11. I say a little after, so that's maybe 20-ish minutes. We are going to move on to linebackers, inside linebackers, and hopefully this one's a little bit easier. I think. Here we go. In general, sorry, I have to move this back over. Sorry, y'all. Oh man, Steve-O, appreciate the super chat for $99. Thank you, man. So he said, can you give your opinion on the Cam Newton shun at the franchise? So are you talking about like the franchise shunning Cam? I wish I could, live feed get your thoughts. To see like exactly what you were talking about there. So for me, I was just talking about it earlier, and I don't know if you're on social, if you're on X, but the Panthers did put out a few days ago. A pretty nice tweet. And I know tweet doesn't mean anything, post, whatever you want to call it these days, but they did put out a post with basically honoring Cam in a way. Like it wasn't officially official, but they put it's a minute and 40 seconds of Cam Newton. And so, like, sure, does a social media admin manager who's posting on behalf of the Panthers mean that things like because they're doing that, does that mean that things are all squared away? No. But it does feel like it's heading in the right direction. So they posted this, and then it was simply because, of course, the Superman movie is out, which I have not seen, but it said, we heard Superman is back on the big screen. And then it's just straight Cam Newton. So I think they're going to get it back into actually, this was a mailbag question that came in, and part of like I'm not going to spoil it, but it'll be out, and you'll be able to hear it tomorrow, late tomorrow. Part of what I was talking through, or one of the questions I was asking the mailbag this week was around re-energizing the fan base. Like it was more or less like, how do you do that? And one, winning is important. You have to win to get fans back in the seats and to create a home environment that people want to see. But two, and it wouldn't be everything, but I do think figuring out how to get it right with Cam, having him in the fold, like just the way that we look at, the Panthers legends as of late, Luke Kuechly associated with the team, Thomas Davis, we see them, and I know they work for the team in various roles, Jake Delhomme as well, but you see some of those players, and even C. Smith at some point, which I know he's got his own stuff going on, but just having those guys around, I do think it would go a long way. And I think I do think partially for fans too, from the fact that maybe we feel like Tepper and them had kind of just like, we're going to put a red X over Cam Newton and his legacy and what he meant for the Carolinas and try to act like it's not a thing. But, it was a thing. It was polarizing way more to this. I mean, it's part of the reason why a lot of folks over the last 10 years, we're coming up on the 10-year anniversary of it, but why a lot of folks were becoming Panthers fans and were tuning into Panthers games. So I do think they're going to get it back on track. At least I hope so. Yeah. It's like they think he's a terrible player. Yeah, it's kind of felt that way. And so I do hope that they do figure it out. I mean, for the sake of, just the franchise. And of course, I do think too, as well, once he officially retires, although he's saying he's not going to, but I do think you could get him into the Ring of Honor. I think there's a lot of just good stuff. I mean, even having him back for a game, if fans knew, I think people would get pretty excited to see him or have him around and back in the fold. I do. All right, folks, we're going to close. Sorry, I keep trying to do this. We're going to close it out today. Oh, Steve-O, man, you're keeping the chat. I appreciate it, man. So he is treated like he was a terrible player, and they want to forget it. Yeah, they do, and I don't know. The Carolinas dealt really well with him. I know there was a lot of negativity on the outside. Speaking about Cam, not national media had a perception of him and who he was and things like that, but it feels like you would want to honor or stay in good standing with one of the players that did so much for not just for the Panthers, but for the city of Charlotte. Like, I don't live in Charlotte, we live on the coast, but I know just from seeing how much Cam Newton did for the city of Charlotte as well, and how involved he was and all the things that he did there. So I think they'll get it right. I do. All right, let's see if I can get my screen back. There we go. Share this the right way. Appreciate you guys. As always, we have one final position group to preview tonight, and that, of course, is the linebackers. If you guys are just now tuned in, we've already previewed safeties, cornerbacks. The offense, again, like we said, is already done. This is good for me because then I'll just have outside linebackers and the defensive line with tackles and ends. So I guess I'm technically more than halfway through in special teams, but that's easy. All right, folks. As much as when I look at this, and we'll go through as we have with everyone else, when I look at or at least before I actually got into this, I did have concerns, and I still do, but there is some decent depth here. It's not fantastic, and there is some experience. So, the Panthers group, it's just the fact that when you look at the Panthers inside linebacking core, that there's just not that middle linebacker that we've all come to know of existing with the Carolina Panthers. Like, it's just not there. And you have the void of not having Shaq Thompson, who's kind of filled in the gap in those post-Luke Kuechly, post-Thomas Davis days. But it's felt like there's always been an anchor in the middle of the defense that's there, that's good. And it's not to say Josey Jewell isn't that or can't be it. It's not to say Trevin Wallace isn't as well, or that Roseboom may rise. But I don't know that we have that yet, and we're trying to figure it out. And I think there's valid concerns about all the guys that are there. So you have a decent group, but I don't know if you have like a group that's jumping off the charts. But we'll get into it. So Claudin Cherilus, Josey Jewell, Bam, Martin Scott, South Carolina. I'm not going to pronounce this right. Tuasivi Nomuru out of Fresno State, John Radigan, Christian Roseboom, Trevin Wallace, and Jacoby Wyndham. All right, folks, I sped up way too fast there. Let's jump right into it. So like I said, the one positive out of the inside linebacking group is that you got guys that have played. So unfortunately, because of injuries and things that have happened, guys that have been able to get on the field, and maybe they haven't been able to produce, but they've been on the field, they got their snaps. So we'll see how it plays out. Should be a competitive battle. And I'm just genuinely curious if Trevin Wallace, that's my biggest question mark, if he is going to step up to the plate, and if he's going to really like take that next step. I say take a step because I don't know if he took the next step, in my opinion, last year. Take a step forward to really show us like, hey, you are worth it in the third round. It's going to pan out, and you can play football at the level that we need you to play. So we'll start though. Claudin Cherilus, 6'2", 230, 3 years of experience, had 12 solo tackles last year. We'll get his stats pulled up. He appeared in 13 games, in 23 total, 12 solo, and 11 assists. Previously, and appeared in 6 games in 2023. So again, this was more of a virtue of players going down, injuries, Trevin hurt, Josey hurt, and I think even guys behind them getting hurt. Like we were down to like 4th and 5th string linebackers late in the season. I was pulling up his game log here. And so, yeah, that was a decent amount of his playing time. Hit or miss in the middle here between weeks 4, 5, and 6. A little bit between 8 and 12. And then lastly, last time we saw him on the field, and I think he got injured too. Like this is like it all blurs together. But I'm telling you, man, this linebacking core, it felt like everybody was getting hurt. 9 total tackles, 5 solo, 4 assists was his best game against the Dallas Cowboys, which unfortunately was a butt whooping. So I do think, I mean, honestly, as we go back here, Claudin Cherilus, of course, Josey Jewell, Christian Roseboom, Trevin Wallace, John Radigan, and even Jacoby Wyndham. Like, I think there's a mix, primarily because a lot of these guys got experience last year. And I mean, for now, I do think Josey Jewell starts. I think it's between Christian Roseboom and Trevin Wallace as your number 2, but then like just filling in the gaps for some of these other guys as we talk about the additional depth. So we'll move on to Josey Jewell, who had a decent year last year. 45 solo, 3.5 sacks, 1 interceptions. We know he missed a little bit of time with injury. I don't know that I was like super impressed, but I mean, he did produce well. I mean, you can see through the timeline of his time in the NFL, he has missed time along the way, missing 5 games last year. 91, still managed 91 total tackles, 3.5 sacks, like we said, and 1 interception. That 1 interception, too, I believe was that the one against the Giants. He had that crazy, looks like the guy caught it. It's almost like the Xavier catch. He ripped it away from him. It's a fantastic play from way back when, if I recall correctly. But, yeah, Josey Jewell to me is your veteran, your starter, the leader of the defense, the guy who's going to call plays. And, with that said, though, he is, getting up in age for linebacking standards. He's 30 years old, definitely has some gas still left in the tank, but it's kind of similar to the cornerback position, in my opinion, where you are like, okay, well, we can't fix it all this year. We've got enough. We can get by. And I think you can definitely get by with this linebacking core. Although I did talk so much about them needing to get an inside linebacker. Like I was pushing and pushing for them to draft someone, but didn't work. Which is okay. They had a lot of other needs to fill. For the purposes of me finishing this out and not staying on here until 12 o'clock at night, it wouldn't be that late, but for me not staying on here late, I am going to skip over and not go into too much detail on the undrafted free agents, again, just to save purposes of time. But I will tell you, Bam Martin Scott, University of South Carolina, 6'2", 231 pounds. I'm excited to see him, of course, as someone that partially pulls for the Gamecocks. I can't wait to see him in camp. I do think he's got a good shot. I mean, as a practice squad player, like I'm not pushing for him to make the 53, but I'm excited to see what he looks like. As we said, Tuasivi Nomuru, linebacker, 6'1", 221 pounds, another undrafted free agent rookie. So although the Panthers, like you look at some of the position groups, safety, they brought in a lot of undrafted free agents. They bring in a few for the linebacking core. So I think there was still a desire to add some depth and just see, like maybe you can find something with some of the pieces that you have here. Now, John Radigan. We'll get John Radigan pulled up here. Talk through him a little bit. Not a lot of production last season. 6 foot, 236 pounds out of Army. 5 years of experience. Had 5 solo tackles last year. We'll get his career stat pulled up. So last year he appeared in 16 games, getting 5 total tackles. Before that, like he's hasn't played a lot throughout his time. First 3 years in the league with Seattle, appeared in 17 games back in 23 with 13 total tackles. That was his best season. So I do think like when we're starting to stack the pieces up and like who's who, what's what, he is one that's going to be competing, but probably there's a chance as you start talking about the linebacking room and we again get into number crunching, if we keep 4 or possibly 5, that he's on the backside of that piece. Because I think in general we'd say Trevin Wallace, Christian Roseboom, and Josey Jewell are there, which would leave John Radican, Wyndham, and Claudin Chairless probably competing for your final 2 spots or 1 spot, depending again on how many they decide to keep for the final 53. So Christian Roseboom is a signing that I'm excited about, only because I think there's something there to where he can push Trevin Wallace. I mean, we've heard Dave Canales talk all about, and Dan Morgan talking about adding competition to every position, pressuring these guys, seeing how they perform, what do they look like. And I think this is one of those situations Christian Roseboom, last season, 59 solo tackles, 1 sack, 1 interception. More of a rotational piece. And man, this guy had production. Like if you go back and look, 123 tackles with the Rams back in but last season, 59 solos, 64 assists, 1 sack, 4 pass deflections, 1 interception, 23 decent pickup there as well, 70 total tackles, 40 solo, 30 assists. So when I think about where Christian Roseboom stacks up, I think he's brought in to compete with Trevin Wallace. Now, to the flip side, it could be he's brought in to compete with Josey Jewell, but I don't think that's the case. I think this is between Roseboom and Wallace for that starting nod. And some people say, well, I think, Wallace should get it and Roseboom's more of the rotational. We're going to see, man. We're going to see how this thing ends up playing out. But I think Roseboom, at least from a production standpoint, has a lot from the past season there with the Los Angeles Rams. And so I think it's a good opportunity to put Trevin Wallace to the fire and see if he can put up. Now, we're going to get into Trevin Wallace in a second. Actually, yeah, he is the very next player, which is perfect. So we're going to pull up Trevin Wallace here and talk a little bit about him. So I think there's a few things at play when you talk about Trevin Wallace. So I think one of the things is, when we talk a lot about drafted talent players, they can never control where they're drafted. So whether you feel like the Panthers picked him at the right spot in the 3rd round, I don't know. Maybe you had someone else in mind, because I know at the time a lot of folks did. But to me, when I think about the Panthers plan last or 2 off season goes, whatever it is, last year around this time, it was probably, hey, Trevin Wallace is going to be a good rotational piece that can learn behind Shaq Thompson and Josey Jewell. I don't think anyone would have anticipated or expected Shaq Thompson to get injured and then forcing Trevin Wallace in there, and then also at some point for having Josey Jewell out and Trevin Wallace like having to call the plays and do all that. I don't think that was the plan. Like I think they probably wanted to slow play this and slow roll it and get him integrated. And then maybe this year or even next year kind of take a step forward. But unfortunately, that's not how the NFL works. Injuries happen. You can't control what's in front of you. So he's thrown to the fire. I think the talent is there. It's just a matter of, can he figure this thing out? Can things slow down a little bit if he is going to be calling the plays, if he is going to have the green dot on the defensive side of the ball? We just have high expectations as Panthers fans for those guys that play linebacker. We just do. Like we said, I went through the list beforehand. But going back, last year, 30 solo tackles, 1 sack, 2 forced fumbles. I'll get his full stat line pulled up here. Played in 13 games. Injury piece of this could be a concern if you're a fan as well. I mean, that's the thing about the linebacking group, the inside linebacking group. Guys missed time between Josey Jewell and Tre'von. Of course, Shaq got hurt, but like injuries killed this defense last year. And at least for I guess the upside is that you did get a bunch of guys with experience along the way, but still a lot to be desired. So for me, going into this year, I do think like as we talked a lot about the safety position battle, we talked about the cornerback position battle and some of the depth pieces. Inside linebacker is another one. I mean, there's to me, like we've already talked about offense, but you really have the center position, which I don't think it's going to be I think Cade Mays is going to eventually win that. Possibly a backup rotational tight end, and then the wide receiver room. Like those are the ones. Running back too, feel like I can make a case for depth position groups, but true like starting players battling for a position, I think this is the ones that a lot of folks are going to be circling, and at least for me, curious how it plays out. All right, last one on the list, Jacoby Windman. I'm going to get him pulled up here. 6'2", 250. Last year, he had 12 solo tackles, 1.5 sacks. There was a point last year for the Carolina Panthers. If you were the team sack leader, there was a good chance you were going to get cut or waived. That was quite the sequence. He appeared in 18 games, 19 total tackles, 12 solos, 7 assists, 1.5 sacks, 2 pass deflection. So again, for me, young guy. I think one of the nice things about this, when you talk about where the core of this, like outside of Josey Jewell, relatively young. So Claudin Cherylus, only 3 years of experience. If you look at Trevin Wallace, Jacoby Windman, like chance for the Panthers to figure it out. But that being said, it's like you look at where the Panthers roster is right now on the defensive side. You feel pretty good on the front. I mean, TBD on where I think I check the boxes for outside linebackers right now. But again, we have to see production to really know that that's working. Defensive front, yes. Between your ends and your tackle, like, yep, feel good there. When we start inching back off of that line, a lot of question marks, relatively speaking. So we'll see. Inside linebackers, one of those groups. So, anyways, I think we made it through, and it's only a few minutes after. I'm going to get back into the chat and close this out. Let's get here. Cool. All right. Here we go, Steve. Oh, man, appreciate you again tonight. crushing the chats. Steve-O with the $1.99. Appreciate it. So can the defense win us 2 to 3 games? So that's a great question. I think for me, actually, how does this work? I'm trying something new. I don't know what this looks like for y'all. That's not working. I don't know if that's actually showing up. Anyways, there's a new preview in the streaming service. So that can the defense win us 2 to 3 games? So yeah, I think for us, the defense is going to have to. I don't know. That's a question. I don't know if they're going to win us 2 to 3 games. I think they have to keep us in more games than they did last year. The thing about it is, as bad as the Panthers were on the defensive side of the ball, they still won 5 games. They're an overtime against, I mean, if you look these things up, like the overtime against Tampa, Kansas City, Philly, if they get through 2 of those or even 3, it's an 8-win football team, even with the defense as bad as it was. So I think the offense is likely going to carry. I would love for the defense to be in a state where it could carry the offense, where if Bryce Young and company only put up 15 points or 18 points, that the defense is able to keep us in and or potentially help us win a game or 2. I don't know that I'm ready to say that they can get us to that point, but interesting to see how it plays out. Stevo with another one, man. Appreciate it. What is your win, lose, ceiling, and floor for 2025? So yeah, funny you should ask. Today, I just posted on X the win-loss ceiling. So to be honest, I did tick it up a notch. So I had the ceiling at 11-6, but part of it is I just wanted to feel a little bit better. I do think for me, ceiling for the Panthers right now, 10 wins, only because I don't know that I'm sold. I mean, I'd love to say 11, 12, but I don't know that I can get there just yet. But as I say it, like you go back again, they won 5 last year, as bad as they were on defense. We think they're going to be significantly better. And if they're significantly better, that should give you, to your point, another 2 to 3 wins. So for me, though, I think 11-6 is reasonable, is a ceiling. I think we're talking about realistic expectations, and hopefully we get proven wrong in that 8 to 9 win range. And then flat out floor, probably another 6-win season or 5. Hopefully nothing much lower than that. And hopefully we're not even talking about that as we get through that. What is good, SE S Panthers Boy 803? What's up? What's good, man? I hope Nick Scott has a little turtle. I'll shy to slow turtle. Y'all kill me, man. Oh, y'all kill me. Well, folks, this has been a long episode. I appreciate everyone that has stayed in. If you are on another platform outside of YouTube, make sure you go out, subscribe to the channel. And for those that have stayed through this whole thing, we're going to have, or for you guys, if you come back, we're going to be releasing what I just did for the individual positions, cornerback, safety, middle linebacker. So it'll be the same content. If you want to watch it, you can, which is great. If not, that's cool too. I will be back, though, recording individual videos for outside of linebackers, tackles, and ends. And again, we got the offense going. So the full 90-man roster preview is almost done for me. So anyways, folks, that's going to do it for tonight. Appreciate everyone for tuning in. As always, y'all have a good one.